You want to make sure that you are just as covered for your health as you are for your car.
Each time I make a memory, then I'll try to make it with you.
Hey besties, and welcome back to my channel. Yes, today I am sitting down because I am going to be doing an info sharing video again. Please don't click out of this video. I know you guys don't tend to enjoy these videos like these, but to be quite honest, these are videos that drive me. They are like, you know, my other passion, and I love sharing information with people, especially those that need it. And so here we are. Please just watch it. Please and thank you. While we edit, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and go ahead and click the notification bell next to the subscribe button so you get notified each time I upload a video. And of course, thumbs up this video. Today I want to talk about medical aid. I've been doing a little digging around. I have done a little bit of research, and I thought I should go ahead and share that with you guys. This is especially for people who are planning on having kids, people who have kids and are considering switching their medical aid, people who have kids and don't have medical aid yet and are looking into getting one, and all of that fun stuff. I'm not necessarily going to be giving you guys price ranges because I feel like that one is going to vary from person to person. However, you can go into their website and go ahead and check their different pricing based on what you want and how it's going to suit your family. First things first, in case you're wondering, which you probably aren't, but I have to do it anyway, what is a medical aid? Basically, a medical aid is some sort of safety net that provides cover for you and your family financially when it comes to medical stuff, be it an operation, childbirth, accident, pretty much anything and everything that you would have to go to the doctor for, to the pharmacy for, or you would have to stay in hospital for. Just like life insurance, you have to pay a monthly fee for it to stay active. Listen, you have to pay your medical aid every single month. Whether you're using it or not, you have to pay it every month for it to stay active. It's just the way it is. It's just like funeral cover. It's just like life insurance cover. It has to be paid every single month for it to stay active. You can use your medical aid as and when you need it for your medical procedures or healthcare needs. You won't always need a medical aid, but it's a genius idea and a fantastic one too, to always make sure that your medical aid is up to date. It's paid. If you feel like you're not going to be able to pay it, I don't know, for whatever reason, call them up and find out if there's some sort of payment arrangement, some sort of something that can be put in place for your medical aid cover to stay active while you're catching up to the payments. It is a great thing to have. Trust me on this one, especially when you have children in your home. My medical aid is crazy expensive, but I can't imagine life without it. It has been a lifesaver for me in many cases. Medical aids have got different plans. They all offer different plans, be it they call it packages, options, series, whatever it is they choose to call it, but they will call it by different names, and each one of them will have different price ranges. So you get them ranging from a couple of $100 to a couple of thousands, depending on what it is that you are looking for and how many people, of course, that covered under your plan. The one thing you need to be aware of is that the more people you have in your cover, you're most likely going to pay more, and so it'll grow as and when the number of people covered grow. It also will grow every year when they add their increase percentage. So if you this year you're paying about 9,000 Rand for all 4 of you guys, maybe next year you might pay 10,000 Rand for all 4 of you guys. Depending on the plan that you choose for you and your family, you might get a savings account in your medical aid cover, or you might not. A savings account, sort of like a savings account on your normal bank, where you can use it to access those funds as and when you need it. So for example, with my medical aid, I'm with CAMF, and my cover or my plan with CAMF is double plus. So with a double plus plan, you get a savings account as well. So every month when I pay my medical aid, there's a little portion of that contribution that goes into my savings account, and with that money in my savings account, I can basically use it to get my day-to-day medicines over the counter. If I decide that Nolly needs some sort of allergics, I can go to Clicks and I can pay for that allergics using my medical aid savings account. Not all medical aid plans have got that option. Some medical savings account are actually on a sort of like shared basis with the medical aid scheme. You don't necessarily use your medical aid savings account to pay for everything that you are buying over the counter. Your medical aid will pay a certain portion of it, and then the rest of it will be covered from your savings account. That's exactly the setup with my medical aid. If I go to Clicks today and I buy allergex, and allergex is maybe what, 50 Rand, I don't know, medical aid will cover a certain percentage of that, and then the rest of it will be covered by my savings account. So I'm not necessarily using 100% of my savings account to pay for my over-the-counter medicines, be it prescribed or self-medication. Oh my gosh, there's a fly in here. Whereas many moons ago, while I was on Discovery, I also had a plan. I think it was called a saver. I'm not too sure. On that plan, I also had a savings account. However, the difference with that one is that my medical aid wasn't covering any portion of the bill when I was buying buying over the counter. So I hope that makes sense. You want to also take into consideration things like those. If you have a medical savings account, that's fantastic. However, what does it mean for your day-to-day doctor's consultations, for your over-the-counter medicines, and anything and everything else that you might want to use the medical aid for? You want to get on the call, call up your medical aid, and ask them for further details about the plan that you're interested in, so that you know you covered all the bases, you know exactly what you're getting yourself into, so when they take your money every month, it doesn't hurt as much. And yes, I always recommend that you get cover that comes with a medical savings account, just because it's a whole lot less stressful. Medical aid funds tend to run out very quickly, especially if you have multiple kids. They just run out so quickly, and because a medical aid, obviously they're not in the business of dishing out money to pharmacists and doctors, they also have limits in their allowance. And so you'll find that you will go to a doctor, but they will only pay so much, because some doctors also charge way more than what the medical aid is willing to cover. Or you'll go to Discam and they'll tell you actually you will have to pay for that yourself, because it's not necessarily covered by your medical aid. Find out from your medical aid what happens to that savings account should you decide to terminate your plan with that scheme. I know with CamF, should I decide to leave my company because I'm getting the medical aid from my company, it's the only medical aid scheme they offered us, and so you have to be in it as an employee unless you produce some sort of, you know, receipts that says you're on your husband's medical aid from a different company. Anyway, I digress. With my medical aid savings account, when I leave the company, all the funds that I've accumulated in there, I will get back in a form of cash into my bank account. So I'm not too pressured to go ahead and spend the money because I am too worried that it's just going to go to waste. Another very important thing you want to take into consideration when looking into medical savings account is whether or not that money accumulates or takes over or rolls over into the new year. There are some medical aid schemes that let you forfeit the money. So if you haven't used it up till December, it basically just vanishes into thin air like data. You know, you buy it, you don't use it, and then it's gone. You have to find out, if I don't use this, can I carry this amount over into the new year, and can I just let it accumulate until I decide that's it, I want to cut ties, I need something else someplace else? Am I getting my money back? You need to find that out. We need to get out of this mentality of being afraid to ask questions. You'd rather be the person who asks too many questions and you know your safety net is pretty solid, rather than being the person who assumes they understand what everybody's talking about, what the medical aid is offering, only for you to be the one crying at the end because you had no idea what they were talking about, and so what you assumed was the case is actually not. That was a mouthful. I feel like I've been rambling for so long and I haven't even got to the point here. The point being the top 5 medical aid schemes in South Africa, the best for 2020. But before we get there, I hear a helicopter going past. I want to go ahead and mention here a few things for you to consider before you go ahead and pick a medical aid scheme. I know it sounds crazy. It's like one of those overlooked things where you're thinking, do I really have to do that when I need medical aid? It's not like car insurance. It's not like household insurance. It's not like I'm buying a car or anything. But think about this. This is about your health. And you want to invest in your health, right? You don't want to be sick and stranded in some place where you don't really want to be. You don't want to be stuck in a situation where you are expected to cough out a whole lot of money to cover your medical bills. You want to make sure that you are just as covered for your health as you are for your car. Remember when I mentioned earlier that medical aid schemes vary in pricing, or how much they charge you for the cover that you need? Can be literally from a couple of $100 a month to a whole lot of thousands a month. It's all up to you what you want, how you want it to cover you, what is best suited for your family, and how many people are covered in that plan. First things first that you want to look into is whether or not you can afford the monthly premium. There is no shame in looking at your budget and finding a medical aid that suits your budget. There's literally no shame in that. In fact, it's probably the wisest thing to do. Just make sure that what you pick is not settling. What you pick is what will cover your budget, but at the same time covering your medical needs. I can tell you now that Dizzy is on a hospital plan on his medical aid. He doesn't have a medical savings account. His medical aid basically covers him for hospital stays, period. And that's what he needs. It's best suited for him. Home guy hardly ever gets sick, hardly ever goes to the doctor, hardly ever needs anything over the counter. Like, I'm not kidding, I'm not making this up. The medical aid plan that he's on is exactly perfect for him. I read an article from some financial smart people somewhere that said your medical aid premium should be 10% of your salary or your household income. If it's anything more than that, honestly, they are probably just ripping you off. It should be nothing more than 10% of your household income or your salary on your own. Another thing to consider while you're deciding on a medical aid scheme is there anybody else in your household who's got some sort of chronic illness? This doesn't have to be like an immediate thing that's happening right now. It can be something that, you know, maybe somebody had in your family. Like I know from my family, from my mother's family, my grandma had diabetes, and so my mom is at risk of getting diabetes. So am I. It's something that you want to keep in mind while you're shopping for your medical aid scheme. Do they cover chronic illness? How much of that cover is it? Do I have to top up whenever I need to see the doctor, specialist, or any of that fun stuff? These are the things that I really need you to think long and hard about when you are choosing your medical aid. Look at which hospital you would want to be admitted to or into as and when the time comes. Do you really want to go to a regular private hospital where you share a ward with everybody else? Or you want to go to a bougie private hospital where you get a private room and you get to be there with your family? Or you just want a private hospital that's going to give you a private room, even though your family's not allowed to sleep over, but you can have your own little personal space and stuff like that. It's funny because this is one of those things where you don't really know. You might end up not even using your medical aid at all, but then you might end up really needing your medical aid. It's a 50-50 chance. You can either go the route of saving a ton of money into your bank and wait for that time where you need your medical aid, or you can pay the medical aid scheme a certain amount of money on a monthly basis and again just hope for the best. There's really no way of knowing unless you are starting a family. Then you know for a fact you're going to need a medical aid and you have a reason. So yeah, this is one of those situations where you don't know for a fact if you're going to need it. I mean, who knows that they're going to be involved in a car accident? Nobody. Who knows that they're going to be diagnosed with cancer tomorrow? Nobody. Who knows that they're going to fall sick a few weeks from today and they're going to need a medical aid? Nobody. You don't know. We're all going on faith. Another thing you want to ask yourself or consider is how much money you are willing to pay over and above what your medical aid covers. And this is for the limited medical aid plans. So for example, if you choose, say, a hospital plan and they tell you, should you be hospitalized, we are only willing to pay up to maybe 30,000 of your whole entire hospital stay bill. That's typically around 3 days of staying in hospital, you know. But should you have to stay longer than that, then you have to start paying for yourself. Ask yourself those kind of questions. How much of this am I willing to incur? How much of this am I willing for it to be my little baby? Am I even willing to top up my medical aid bills when I have a medical aid? That's a solid real life question that you need to ask yourself, because one way or another you're going to be faced with situations like these. Going hand in hand with that is that, are you actually willing to do that? It's one thing asking yourself, how much am I willing to pay? You can say maybe 10% of the bill, not knowing how much the bill is going to be, but you say nothing more than 10% of that I'm happy to cover, or maybe 5%, or you know what, I'm happy to go 50-50 with my medical aid. But the real question is, are you actually willing and ready to pay, you know, that top up on top of what the medical aid is covering? Do you want to give away money to say, there you go, I know I'm paying you every month, but hey, you need my help, so there you go, here's money, go spend money for no reason, here's some money to do whatever it is you want? I mean, I'm not happy to let go of money on things that I should have very well delegated to somebody else, you know. If somebody else can cover that bill, that lump sum of a bill, and I can just pay small amounts every month, then I'm happy to do that. Some people will argue that actually you paying your premium, your medical aid premium every month, is pretty much like saving that money into some little underbed someplace and then making it into a lump sum for when you need it. My argument with that is you have to be mega disciplined to not tap into that underbed saving. You never know how much of that money you're gonna need to cover that lump sum. I pay a little over 12 grand on our medical aid scheme, which means a little over 100 grand a year. But let me tell you, Nolibe's hospital stay for the NICU was way more than that. Like, we would have had to, I don't know, sell the car or something. We would have had to do that to cover that bill. Whereas that little bit of contribution every month, honestly, even though you may look at it in a bigger perspective to say, but in a year you're covering well over 120 grand, why don't you just put it under your bed and, you know, build up that lump sum of money? I don't know where I would have gotten the money to pay that lump sum of a medical bill that would have been slapped on our faces for Nolibe's NICU stay. I don't know where we were gonna get money to pay for that. If you have a big risk appetite, go for it and build up that underbed stash. But if your risk appetite is very small and you really just don't want to take the chances, then get that medical aid scheme. Be like me. I have a very tiny risk appetite when it comes to healthcare stuff. Like, I would rather be wasting 120 grand a year on a medical aid that I never get to use than having to figure out where I'm going to get the money to cover the cost. I digress. And then the last thing you want to consider while you're deciding on a medical aid scheme is, does anybody in your family need some sort of specialist care? The one thing that nobody ever talks about is that specialists and doctors have two different charging rates. Regular doctor will charge you about maybe 600 rand for consultation, whereas you go to a specialist and you all of a sudden have to pay over 1,000 just to see them for like 10 minutes. Medical aids tend to have some sort of cooling period or some sort of like a delayed cover. I don't know what they call it. In my mind, cooling period makes sense. And this essentially means that when you join a medical aid scheme and you are already pregnant, that pregnancy is not going to be covered by the medical aid scheme. Meaning they're not going to be covering the cost of birth. They're not going to be covering the cost of you seeing a doctor, a gynae, a midwife, antenatal classes, all of that fun, expensive stuff. They're not going to be covering. They will, however, cover your baby once the baby is born, provided you get that baby registered into the medical aid scheme that you chose within 30 days of them being born. You can't be approaching a medical aid scheme when you're already pregnant, because then you are just using them to cover for your hospital bills and your doctor's bills and all of that not so fun stuff, and that's not fair. You know, just think about it in a real life way. You don't get a funeral cover when somebody dies in your family. You get it before you get to that point, and it's the same with a medical aid scheme. You have to get it before you fall pregnant. It's always a good idea to get a medical aid scheme. What you can do is be on a lower plan where you don't have to pay a lot of money on a monthly basis, and find out from them what it'll mean should you find out you're pregnant. Will they allow you to up your cover, in the sense that they're not going to tell you, oh, there's a cooling period by the way if you do that, or do you have to then up your cover first before you start trying for a baby? You might not be pregnant right now, or maybe you are and you're already in your medical aid scheme and you have no idea how to navigate all of that medical jungle. So the things you want to look into is the plan that you're currently covered under. Does it have limits when it comes to doctor's visits or gynecologists? Some medical aids actually tell you that because you're on this network plan, for example, you can only see these doctors, you can only go to these hospitals, and you can only do this from this pool. You know, you have to look into that as well. This doctor that I want to go see, is it covered by my medical aid scheme? You don't want to go to a doctor and then submit your claim and they tell you, oh, this doctor is not part of our network. Be sure to ask the right questions. Do I have a set list of hospitals that I have to go to? Can I go to any hospital I want? Can I see any doctor that I want? And all of that fun stuff. You have to find out what exactly they pay for, especially when it comes to childbirth, pregnancy, and all of that fun stuff. Do they cover antenatal classes? Do they pay for your scan, you know, the ultrasound scan? Research is your bestie when it comes to medical aids, because there's a lot of blueprint with regards to medical aid, and sadly some of it you find out as and when you are knee deep into everything and they tell you, oh yeah, we don't cover that, sorry, next. It's a sucky situation to be in. Just be open and honest with yourself and write down all the things that you would want from your medical aid, that you would want for them to cover, and how much of that you're willing to absorb, if anything. With that being said, the top 5 medical aid schemes in South Africa as of February 2020, I think this is the research that was done by Hippo. I don't remember which website it was on, but it's pretty much all over Google. You can search it for yourself. The top one, which comes as no surprise to me, is Discovery. For me personally, is a really good medical aid. It has got a lot of options depending on your budget, and if you play around long enough with their options, you'll be able to get exactly what it is that you want. Apparently it has majority of the people as well. I think it occupies about 54 if not 56% of the market in SA, which is incredible. I was on Discovery for what, a little over a year, if not 2 years, and I absolutely loved it. And I had a plan that wasn't necessarily unlimited on everything, but it was able to cover KBS birth, my hospital stay, my midwife bills. They didn't cover post-birth support where my midwife was coming to my home. I had to co-pay on that one, so I'm not surprised that Discovery comes at the top. Another one is Fed Health. Now I have no idea what Fed Health is, but I did look around and their options look fairly okay as well. It's followed by MediHealth. To be quite honest with you guys, I didn't know majority of these medical aids. I always assumed there is Momentum, Discovery, CamF, because I know CamF. and what else, jams, because you know, for our fellow governments. And then there are other smaller medical aids that come with the companies that you work with. But I had no idea that there is a Fed Health, there's a MediHealth, there's a MediShield, there's a Bonitas. You know, I didn't know all these medical aids until I was doing this research. So trust me when I say I learned a whole bunch while I was doing this as well. But yeah, the top 5 right now is Discovery, followed by Fed Health, and then MediHealth, and then MediShield and Bonitas. The 6th one is Momentum. It didn't quite make it to the top 5, but it is right there at the top as well. These are published as of February 2020, so they are still pretty legit and relevant. I'm pretty sure this might change though next year based on what happened this year with the pandemic and all of that fun stuff, which I feel like right now is a great time to be shopping for a medical aid, because everybody has been giving input back to their medical aids and reviewing them on places where you review stuff. And so a lot of plans are changing to accommodate everything, and so I feel like we will get better cover as of next year with our medical aid. We probably will have to pay slightly more, but you'll be covered for a whole lot more, because this pandemic has taught us a lot. I don't want to sit here and tell you which medical aid you should consider, because like I said, a medical aid cover is a personal thing. It is based on how many kids you have. Do you even have kids in that plan? Are you planning to have children? Like, are you on a TTC journey, trying to conceive journey? Do you have any chronic illnesses? Do you want to see any specialists? It's all, you know, it's a personalized thing, and so you would have to get onto the internet and find a plan that works for you. Great place to start is going on Hippo. The only thing I hate with Hippo is that they want all of this information from you, and the very next day you get people calling you left, right, and center, because all of a sudden they're thinking, ooh, she needs a medical aid, we need to call that person and capture her. It's very annoying, but it's worth looking into. It's great because it compares the different medical aid options for you. So you basically will go there, you input your details, how many children you have, what it is you're looking for a medical aid cover, like are you willing to top up on any cost, medical bills, and all of that fun stuff. And then at the end it'll suggest or recommend which covers or which medical aid schemes are good for you, with different options of what it is they're providing. So you can click on one and look at what they're giving you for that amount of money, and look at the other one and all of that fun stuff, and then you get to choose depending on what it is they're covering me for and how much I will have to pay every single month. Money is a pressed commodity, especially now more than ever. So you need to be spending your money wisely on things that are good for you and are making your life a whole lot better. That's just my opinion anyway. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. That was a mouthful. I talked about a whole lot of things. I hope it makes sense. I hope it is helpful. Let me know in the comment section down below which medical aid scheme you're covered by and how much you're paying. If you're willing to tell, please do. Like I already told you guys, I'm on CAMF with the 3 kids that we have, and we're currently paying just over 12,000 a month. Honestly, it is a lot of money. It's a tough pill to swallow every month, but it's completely worth it. I wouldn't have it any other way unless they offer me a cover that is cheaper but does exactly what CAMF does for me. I don't know where I'm gonna find that. The next video is gonna be a vlog, so don't panic. It's a vlog. I'm still vlogging. Thumbs it up. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.
Tonight we're running on the right track.